Hello and welcome to the Home Economist. Today we're going to learn to make biscuits. Ingredients you will need for this recipe are 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 5 tablespoons of cubed butter, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup of milk, buttermilk or kefir, 1 tablespoon of butter for melting. You will need a bag, a fork, or a pastry cutter. You can either use butter, lard, or Crisco. Today we're using butter. You can also use a mixture of different kinds, and you don't have to use as much fat as I'm using, or you can use more. It's totally up to you. So the first thing we're going to do is add together our dry ingredients. We're going to start with our leavening agents, which are baking powder and baking soda. By using both, as well as an acidic liquid, we are allowing the biscuits to rise more. Okay, and then we'll add our sugar and our salt and our salt. And then we're gonna mix to combine until there's no clumps of anything and it's well together. So for your butter, you want the butter to be cold. So we're just gonna add our butter in. With this step, you can either use the pastry cutter and you can smash your butter in like this. And you could do the same thing with the fork. You would just smash the cubes individually. And every now and then, you'll want to scrape off the butter until you have smaller butter pieces. So now that the butter is in small pieces, as you can see, that's a piece of butter. And we have some larger pieces and smaller pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want it to flake throughout so that when it becomes a dough, it uses the fats melting to rise. So now we're just gonna add our liquid. So we're gonna do just like we did with the Irish soda bread. We're just gonna make a little hole in the middle. It makes it easier to combine. And we're gonna start with about 3/4 of our liquid, so about half a cup. And we're just gonna start by mixing that together. And we're gonna need some more. We're just gonna mix until we form a dough. We don't want it to be too dry, because nobody wants a dry biscuit. But we don't want it to be too wet, otherwise it'll be too heavy to rise. And I'm actually gonna need a little bit more liquid. Just gonna pour it in there. So I've probably used about half a cup of liquid. So this is what your dough should look like right here, right? I end up using 1 cup of liquid total. If you are trying to make a more frugal biscuit, you can use half milk and half water. So we're just gonna add a little sprinkle of flour to make it a little easier to handle. And we're going to gather it together into a ball. And then we're gonna take our bag or plastic wrap and we're gonna put it inside. Okay. And this will go in the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes. You don't have to do this, but the colder it is, the higher it will rise. So if you're in a hurry, you don't have to do this, and you'll still get fluffy biscuits. They just won't be as high as if you chill the dough first. So we're just gonna lay out some flour on the counter and then roll out our biscuits. We're gonna take the biscuits out of the bag. My dough chilled for about 15 minutes. And I'm just gonna put it on there. Sprinkle the top with a little bit of flour. So now you can either use a rolling pin or you can just do it with your hand. You know, no need to make an extra dish dirty. We're gonna go about to 1/2 inch thick. So we want nice, tall, fluffy biscuits. I'm gonna use a cup today. If you have a biscuit cutter, you can use that. And I'm just gonna cut out my biscuits. I want them to be kind of even. It's not a tragedy if it's not. We're gonna go from the edges first, and then we'll work our way inward so we don't get too many ugly biscuits, which I'll show you at the end. Now we have all of our biscuits rolled out. We are just going to combine the scraps and make ugly biscuits. If you wanted to, you could do drop biscuits and just use a spoon and drop the biscuits on and not roll it out at all. We want them to be about the same size as our other biscuits when we make the ugly biscuits with the leftover dough, because we don't want to waste anything. So now we're going to brush the tops of our biscuits with butter. We're just going to take our pastry brush and our tablespoon of melted butter and just paint the tops with our butter, like so. So now we're going to bake them at 375 for 10 to 20 minutes. You'll want to keep an eye on them. When the bottom is golden brown, you know that they'll be done. If you wanted to freeze these for later use, all you'd have to do is not put the butter on, put them on a sheet, a baking sheet in the freezer so they'd freeze individually and not stick together. And then you can pull them out and bake them at 375 for 15 minutes. Now our biscuits are done. It took about 15-20 minutes. And if we flip them over, they have a nice golden brown edge. And then we're going to cut them open. They are quite hot. And they're nice and fluffy on the inside. We did get a good rise out of them, if you remember what the dough looked like before. So this is a great staple for any meal. You know, you can have this with a stew, you could make biscuits and gravy, or you can just have eggs. Hello everyone, so we just finished filming our biscuit video. If you liked that video, please like and subscribe.